it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Really Charlie Podcast. I'm Charlie Perry, and my guest today is Jeff Shaw. Definitely can't wait to get this going. I'm going to turn down the lights here a little bit. This is, I got this referral from a guest that I had on previously, and he referred me to Jeff. And little did I know that this man is amazing. He's definitely kind of had the same footsteps as I have, maybe a little bit more dramatic, a little less, but definitely went through something just like I did. And I am so fascinated to hear what he has to say. And he's probably going to be saying some things that I actually agree with him 100%. So I can't wait to talk to him, but I'm going to read something real quick. And this is called My Style. And let's see. My Style. Write what you know. Write what you know, many of my friends tell me. Write a crime novel. But that didn't interest me, interest at the time. For years, I wrote police reports from vandalism to homicides. Just facts, ma'am. You can get stuck in a rut writing like that, and I think it was what stopped me from wanting to write a crime novel. The years of writing in a simple narrative format, devoid of emotion and drama, was difficult to overcome. I did try and add a little creativity to some of my reports and ended up in the captain's office when the Miami Herald printed one of them. Brevity is the soul of wit, the captain said. Creative writing would have to wait until I retired. And I did retire. Not long after I left law enforcement, my father wrote a 17-page letter, a short autobiography of his life growing up during the Great Depression, his years in school, and his service during World War II. What I read was breathtaking. I knew I wanted to write something similar for my kids, who were young then. The idea became who I am, the man behind the badge. I quickly learned that I had no idea in how to write anything someone would want to read. So I learned. I went to seminars, writers' conferences, book signings, joined authors' groups, spoke with editors, and researched all I could online. Slowly, I felt the confidence to show some of what I wrote to people who became my mentors, and with their help, I published the memoir in April 2020 as the pandemic took hold of the country. Unbelievable, amazing story. I could put Charlie Perry on the bottom of that, and everybody would know, would believe that it was me. Jeff Shaw, my pleasure, my honor to be sitting here in this podcast and getting to interview a man I want to salute first because you had a long, great career, and I hope you're proud of it. Just like I'm proud of my career. And God bless you.
Thank you.
All right. So we see where your inspiration came, and you wrote a book, Who I Am, The Man Behind the Badge. You also have another book. But we're going to get back in. We're going to get into that. I am so amazed how a man like you and a man like I, women also, how they go through their career, and for some reason we don't pick up journals or something like that. We don't write books. We may keep things, throw it aside, and that's my personal experience. But could you imagine the stories that, and I mean, they're being written now as we speak. But could you just think of Jeff, all the stories you left behind,
It's true.
and it's
I know there's a lot of them that I didn't even put in the book. Memories that maybe I locked away too deeply. But the ones that I do remember are pretty significant, and I think they really shaped me into who I am today, which is like the title of the book, Who I Am. Those experiences definitely changed me from who I was before I wore the uniform.
true. I kind of wish I had the podcast during my career, but that's not something we could do.
Right.
Because we would always be subject to some rules and regulations, and
Right.
it would just stop us from doing what we want to do. And you mentioned about the pandemic and how you was able to create your stories in your books, and that's pretty much what happened with me with this podcast. The
Right.
pandemic set. I was already trying to do something, but more in a production room and in a studio. But the pandemic just stopped everything.
Yes.
And then podcasting came into my life, and that's the one thing that I could say is the good about the pandemic, is that I was able to do this. I was able to create this and do this. So, how was your day, and how's the weather?
It's really pretty chilly out this morning. It got down into the 20s, and I'm having coffee as the sun came up, and I went outside and walked around on the porch a little bit. It was pretty chilly, but it turned out beautiful. Blue skies, very relaxing. I'm working on the sequel to Lieutenant Trufant, which was that second book you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It's my first crime novel, and from that first paragraph I wrote on who I am many years ago, I've learned quite a bit, and you can see the progression in Lieutenant Trufant. Lieutenant Trufant's the story of a serial killer in San Francisco. And the one I'm just finishing up now, I'm doing the final edits, is called Leanne and the Clean Man. And I think it, like Lieutenant Trufant, shows me morphing into a little bit of a better author. And I'm still got a long ways to go, but I really enjoy writing. It's kind of, I want to say it's more than a hobby, but I really feel like I'm escaping into each of those characters when I'm writing. Sitting here at my desk, drinking coffee, saving one person's life, taking another person's life. You step into that character and you're somebody else for those few moments. So I think I got past all those anxieties of writing crime, and now I actually look forward to it.
Good. It's what I like to do is it's unlikely now because some of my colleagues have passed away, but there was a time where we had come into the office early in the morning. You kind of start your day off with a cup of coffee that was brewing, whether one of the bosses started it or someone that came in early, get the coffee brewing, and then we would just sit down and talk.
Right.
And it could be any kind of conversation, but those conversations were funny, interesting.
I treasure those memories.
Yeah.
Same thing, sitting around the office, coffee. Usually my lieutenant would make it, would have the TV on, CNN would be on, and what's the woman's named Robin Mead, would all be discussing her wardrobe of the day.
Mm-hmm.
and just a little light banter before you got into the thick of what our job was. And this, I'm talking about in the homicide office. We'd get
Yes.
those pleasantries out of the way, and then we'd start discussing our cases. But I treasure those memories. The camaraderie, the
Hmm.
light bantering, like you said. I miss them.
Yeah. The one thing that you know back then it I think it gave it gave us a sense of who we were working with,
Right.
especially if it was someone that was new to the unit. Even when I was new to the unit, it just
Right.
made it just you got to know some people, and you got to say, all right, I could sit in the car with that man, that woman, and
Yes.
we can discuss and talk, freely, and give some professional advice without it um, getting blown up into something else. But the in South Florida, the homicides are like the days of the week, and you can name them because it's pretty crazy down there, and
Yeah, it was.
every day is if you wanted to name a victim, and you don't want to do that, but I'm just saying that a victim could be Sunday through Saturday, because that's when you always knew something was going to happen. And if your phone was ringing, it wasn't just for someone to say hello. It was to tell you some bad news.
True.
Mm. So the our buddy George, great guy,
George
doing
Weinstein.
yeah, he's unbelievable. His book has definitely kept me. I was from cover to cover. I was just in the book, and then I stepped it up even more. I was I put it on the Audible, and had listened to it. Even that was even better because it was actually like, well, it was someone reading me a story, and I get so glued into when I hear someone, especially when they have my interest, um, to tell me a story.
Right.
And are your books on audio at all?
No, but in these last few weeks, I've actually been really looking into it. It's it's an expensive venture to turn one of your a book into an Audible.
Yes, yes.
So I'm still researching all the ins and outs of it. I'm working with another author I just spent the weekend with at the Apple Festival. She was kind of guiding me through the process of finding a narrator, finding a distributor, the costs that are involved, and then I'm trying to pair those costs with the possible returns, and that's where I'm stuck right now. But I definitely want to do audio. Um, I hope to uh, finish up these last few edits on Leanne and the Clean Man, and then I'm going to really look into finding a narrator and getting it on audio.
Awesome. The It's great. I did one book that and well, I actually tried it on my own, and just kind of listening to it, and I was okay with it, but it wasn't something I said I got to let someone else do this.
Right.
So that's why but I want to do it only because I think the return, the revenue later on, kind of it becomes well worth it, and
I think you're right, and that's where I'm going to, I'm trying to put my toe into the water slowly and
mhm.
make that commitment. But I'm definitely going to do it. But you mentioned George Weinstein,
Yes.
and I have to say, he and Marianne Stefanelli were two of my uh, mentors, the two main
Hmm.
mentors. I don't know if you know Marianne. Uh,
I haven't met her yet.
I met Marianne at another author's book launch. We talked a little bit. I liked her. Uh, and my author friend Susan said, um, she puts on a writing seminar, like a little writer's retreat conference, and you should go to it.
Yeah.
And this is right when I was really deciding that I want to write. So I went to this conference. It was at Amicalola Falls, beautiful place to kind of relax and everything. And both Marianne and George read some of my work, and they kind of sat me down and said, and this work I'm talking about was a flash fiction story, like a supernatural story of a young boy growing up in Poland in 1939.
Okay.
You can imagine where that story went.
Mm-hmm.
They also read some of my early chapters of Who I Am, my police stories. They said, Jeff, this has some real potential here. And I think those critiques, those positive comments are what hooked me. I never really thought that I would make it as an author, but I wanted to give it a real shot. And I think it was Marianne Stefanelli, George Weinstein, and Jedwin Smith that pushed me over the edge that weekend. And I don't think I'd be here talking with you right now if it wasn't for those three.
That's good. That's some great advice, and I'm glad that you received it, you took it, and jumped all over it because your stories are amazing. And I reading the reviews on it. In fact, I want to go back to some of them. There were, I think I saved it here. The reviews are just unbelievable. Like this one, Who I Am. Let's see. It says my favorite was the horse. You saved him just like you saved the little baby in the lake. You are so brave. Thank you for being. Excuse me. My eyes are playing tricks on me. For being such a great police officer. I am sorry that you get sad sometimes and thinking about all the bad things you had to see. Why do people have to be so mean? Anyway, maybe if you, let's just say, maybe if you go and get a donut now, it will make it feel better. There's always donut jokes, man. They always.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what?
I never ate donuts.
Yeah, the craziest thing about a donut, right? You go and you may be in a cruiser and you're going to get one, and you're not the only one there. There's all kinds of people there, but we get the label of the donuts.
Right.
Yeah, some professions can't even. I mean, that's the first thing they got to do is get in that drive through and grab a donut and a coffee. But I have so many dear friends that I met throughout my life, and you definitely have some friends in your career that are not considered friends, but more like family because you spend more time with people that you work with than you actually do with your family, especially when you're in a special unit. I think that's going to happen also similar to that is your writing groups.
Right.
Those people are going to be so attached to you, and you share so many things and give so many whether it's critique, some advice, some admiration, inspiration, and they become latched on. Like when I see George and his wife Kim's name and Catherine, when I see their names on social media, I'm like glued into it. I'm like snapping right to it. I want to know what's going on in their life, what they're doing, and it's been so great for me as being an author. It's one title that I love having, and I want you to know you should be very, very proud
of
what you're doing. All right, let's see. Vicky Kellogg says, "Hello, Jeff."
Hello, Vicky.
Yeah, this is that's great.
Vicky was one of our dispatchers throughout my entire career, and sent me on some of those calls that you'll read about in Who I Am. And
Mm-hmm.
I know the same, it took a toll on her, the same as it took a toll on me, dealing with that call. The dispatchers and the call takers are kind of like the unsung heroes in
They
police
sure
work.
are.
They're back enclosed in that little building and nobody sees them. But um, if it weren't for some of the professionalism of those dispatchers, would have we might not be here today. You
Yes.
never know how their competence affects you.
So true. The and they're enclosed, like you said, they're closed in. They're closed in, and believe it or not, they don't all get along.
Right.
But they do a
They do.
fantastic job,
Yep.
unbelievable job, and I am just so a lot of dispatchers that I had in my career still my friends, still communicate with them, and they're definitely well. I can't. Well, they receive the income that they do only because they get forced to work. Working 16 hours and
Our dis-
short.
our dispatchers had to work sometimes double, and if they would allow them, they would be forced to work triple shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah,
of the shortage.
yeah, yep.
It's gotta be
And
hard. Gotta be tough.
it yeah, we definitely had to if it became anything after double, they had to go home.
Right.
And we definitely didn't want anybody to be kind of falling asleep behind the wheel. The and that's an amazing story too, dispatches.
Right.
I wish a lot of dispatches would write their stories.
Right.
It's a great thing. Can't think of that movie right now that I think it was Halle Berry was in, and she was a dispatcher. Did an amazing job.
There was another recent one about communications too. I can't remember the name of it. It was an officer who was being disciplined, and he was taken off the road and put behind the desk answering phones. It was uh, a very emotional movie, and it was pretty close to reality.
Hmm.
They threw in a little extra drama that might not actually be on some uh, call takers' phones, but it was really good. I couldn't take my eyes away from that movie watching that.
I'm gonna have to look
I can't
that up.
remember the name of it right now.
All right, I'm gonna have to find it. Only because those are some of the things that I like watching,
Right.
especially when can't get to sleep. You know, I like to just put a movie on and just watch it. My
Right.
wife gets mad at me because I watched the movie before she did, or we didn't do it together. So the all right, I just want to put this up. Um oops, things jumping in front of me. The Who I Am, the man behind the badge. This is Jeff Shaw for all of you out there. Um this is the Really Charlie podcast. You can catch me on Anchor, Spotify, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Fireside. Fireside, really, I'm not doing a Really Charlie podcast on that yet, but I am doing a show that's a podcast called Did You Know Stuff. And I bring up facts about different things that happen in the world, and I do that on Fireside. But Jeff, this is definitely something that you and I it wouldn't be fair to you to just have one podcast on you. You would definitely you're a book, and I think we should definitely come back and revisit all these things. And but I I'm not closing the podcast. I just want to mention that before I forget.
Sure.
The one of the things that I found that once you write your first book, you begin to inspire other people. Have you come across that?
Yes. I think a lot of my friends and family thought that Who I Am was going to be like a one-off type of thing, one and done. Um, those who really know me well know that I've been writing like crazy. I had 3 different novels or 3 different books going on at the same time. It
Nice.
took me 15 years from the day I put pen to paper on Who I Am to actually getting it published. But during that time, I was also working on a science fiction novel. Most of my life, especially my early life, I was a science fiction nerd, I guess,
Hmm.
Trekkie, Star Wars. I remember as a little kid watching Buck Rogers on a little black and white TV before church. Uh,
Wow.
so I was really hooked into science fiction. And I always thought if I ever wrote anything, it would be science fiction. So I did try and start writing that in the same time I was working on Who I Am. And when Who I Am got too emotional, and there were points there where I just couldn't continue on with that particular case I was writing on, I'd take a break, put it to the side, and get out my science fiction novel. And
Actually, what before you go to something else, what caused you to go back to that story? The story that you couldn't write. What caused you?
uh, I think I just needed to take a breath, you know, more than just a breath. I had to like calm down. I know a couple of times Susan would come into the room while I was typing, and I'd just be leaning over the keyboard weeping, about something.
Hmm.
Uh, um, some of those stories, if when I start writing them, I feel like I'm right there back in the room with uh, whatever victim I was writing about.
Yes.
2 in particular were teenage suicides, and one of them, when I got there, the girl was still alive, and that's when I was trying to type, and I just can almost feel the mother right behind me, inches away from me, crying, and
Hmm.
so trying to put all that down into such fine detail with all the emotions, all the senses working at once, the smells, the sounds. Um, it would just get to me, and I'd have to put it away. I'd be laying awake at night, writing a chapter like that, and just thinking, am I missing anything? Was there something else I should have put in there? Did I put too much, not enough? So it got to the point where I'd start obsessing about a particular chapter in that book. And I realized that, okay, I need to put it away for a minute, put it away for several days, actually, work on
Hmm.
the other thing, get my mind off it, and then start fresh. And I
Yes.
think that really helped me get back into it and be, to do the call justice.
Very nice. That's you without me asking, you already led to it, and because I know you writing stories like that, you were definitely going to get up in the middle of the night, and
Sure.
what would you do? And what did you do? And you just explained it. The there's there's always those hidden stories. Those
Right.
hidden stories that we want to talk and we want to write about. Um, are you putting that to pen or paper or a computer? Those stories, um, as it's in your head.
It's a little of both. If I'm not near the computer and something is playing in my head, I'll sometimes write it down on pen and paper. If I'm outside on the porch drinking a cup of coffee, a lot of times I'll have that pad with me and I'll remember something and write it down. Um, Sometimes it's uh, the same sentence, but I've thought of a better way to word that sentence to get the same thought out there. That's the process of learning how to write. uh, Anybody can write, but you got to be able to write and have people want to read it.
Hmm,
And
exactly.
that's what us as new authors are trying to perfect.
Yeah, I just about a week ago I started a new project, and so I'm stuck in the introduction because it's not poetry; it's something else. It's a nonfiction, and I'm just trying to make sure that I kind of capture the reader. And I still haven't. I changed it about 6, 7 times already. And it's only been a week.
Yep.
And
It really never stops.
mm,
You're almost always afraid to push that. If there was a publish button on your keyboard, you're so afraid to commit to that because you think maybe I should read this chapter one more time. I might be able to tweak it a little bit, but eventually you got to say that's it. I'm not
mhm.
making it better. I'm just changing words around.
Has your wife added to your books? Has she actually verbally or
Um,
added to it, wanted to, like, her statement or how she was feeling about what you were going through? Has that come out in
um,
any of your books?
she is always like my sounding board. Um, a lot of the stories and who I am, she had never heard the details, even though she might have dispatched me on some of them.
Yeah,
Um, she did. I never came home and told her all the details. I just feel like most people don't want to hear those, or I don't want them to know those.
yeah,
You know, I don't want to burden them with my anxieties and the things that I've seen. But she did read who I am. She actually is one of my best beta readers as far as finding little spots that have a snag in them, or she'll miss a couple of simple typos that I read right through. I do send all my work out to an editor, freelance editor, who really polishes them up. But a lot of their suggestions mean I have to rewrite parts of it, and that's where I'll make new mistakes. And
hmm
that's when I rely on Susan to go through it and find them, because it's hard. Our brains see what they want to see, and they'll see that perfect sentence when there's a flaw in it. You'll just read past the flaw, and Susan can find that.
yeah. That's what I do. I kind of, my thoughts are in my head, and they're going a mile a minute,
Exactly. Right. Right.
and but I'm still typing, and I'm missing so many. I says, how did I miss that? Oh, that's terrible, and but I'm always ahead on my thoughts, everything. And that's where my typos come in. So
Right.
I absolutely, absolutely have to have an editor. When I was basically trying to do everything on my own, trial and error, write the manuscript, kind of submit it, do everything that a self publisher does, and I was like, all right, it's good, and then maybe a month down the line, I read one of my books and I was like, "Oh my god, how did I miss this?"
So
Even
true.
one, yeah,
So true.
even one of my back covers, I had the word New Bedford twice instead of putting New Bedford, Massachusetts.
Right.
And I was so devastated because I already had the book number assigned to it, and the ISBN number was already assigned to it. I didn't want to ask for another one. I was just devastated. But um, you know, I love the main library. They take the book anyways, and they
Right.
submit it, and it's great. The I shared this podcast on your profile on Facebook. If you can make it public,
I will.
and then people will be able to comment on it and see it. And the out of um out of all that you have done, what was the what was the one message that you gave yourself? Out of all this that you could take from it, maybe one or two things that you said, "Hey, Jeff, all right, the next one I want to do this." I mean, what was the one thing that really sticks out?
Um, well, as far as like writing anything nonfiction or redoing anything nonfiction, I don't know that I don't have any tales to tell right now, but I think the rest of my work is going to be short stories and novels.
Hmm.
And I think, I've kind of branded myself. Like I thought, maybe I'll write cozy crime because I have people that come up to me and say, "Oh, is there much blood in this story?"
Hmm.
And I'm not going to lie to them. My wife tells me, "Stop trying to cut yourself short,"
Yep.
Just let them buy it. If they don't like it, they don't like it. But I just want to be honest. Yeah, yes, there is going to be there might be a few curse words in here, and there might be a little blood. I try and write my scenes um, the way I saw them. A lot of the scenes in Lieutenant Trufant are actually taken from my personal experiences and put on the street. Some of them were so bad that I had to calm them down because I thought people wouldn't want to know that much, or wouldn't believe that, I thought that might be unrealistic.
Yeah.
So I've decided, the one thing I want to concentrate on is being true to my style. And I don't want to offend people when I'm reading, but I don't want to soften it up so much so that I'm gathering a big, wide group of readers.
Yeah.
I want to stay right there in my lane.
Yep. And I agree. There was I was told by dear friend of mine, Dr. Jabril Kassan, and he wanted me to go to a local university, and I wanted to, and I definitely wanted to get guided by one of the local mentors, a professor at the university, and my biggest fear was they were going to change me how I wrote,
Right.
and I didn't want that. Really wanted to stay how I was, and but I was a little naive. I could have stayed the way that I am in my thought process, but I would have also learned a whole lot of other things. And
Right.
but my path is my path, and I'm glad I didn't go because I would have never been a police officer, and that is one of the greatest things that I've ever experienced in my life, and one of the things that I'm so proud of. But you know what? I never want to put on a badge or uniform again. I really don't.
Yeah, I feel the same way. During some of the, as an example, the Sandy Hook shooting, that was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I try and imagine. You just can't even imagine what that was like. I take all my victims, most of them were adults, shot with all different types of caliber weapons, and I know what that bullet the kid used does, and I just cannot imagine, being in that kind of environment, the pain, or the Pulse nightclub, the same thing. Can imagine walking into that scene and beepers go, or I mean, cell phones going off, people trying to check where their loved one is, and
Yes.
people, and you walk in there, a lot of them are still alive, moaning and groaning. It's like, oh my gosh, how can you process that? I wouldn't be able to sleep for weeks after handling something like that. So I never want to put the badge on again. But after that school shooting, I wanted to volunteer to be at like our local high schools or the elementary schools, in uniform or not, armed or not, it didn't matter. I just felt like I wanted to do something. I still have, I think, that keen eye of picking out,
Mm-hmm.
profiling people that fit the profile of somebody like that. You can see people that don't belong.
Yes. Yes.
To you and me, they stick out like sore thumbs. To
Sure
everyone
do.
else, they don't. But we can still see it. And I just wanted to, offer my experience. But it just turned out that, and of course, back then I was a little younger than I am now. I don't think I'd be capable of really helping much right now.
Yeah, I get you. I get it, and I feel the same way. Sometimes my eyes are going a mile a minute. They're all over the place.
Right.
And one of my uncles, he's saying relax, and I'm like, I am. He said, no, I see you. You're just watching everything. Just relax.
Right.
And but I can't help it. I just can't help it, and you know the feeling.
Right.
Paulette says, if you consider the world we live in today and what we see regularly, by comparison, you think folks could handle it. Um, and I don't think when it comes to life, I don't think people just don't handle things. They may absorb it. You know, and if they absorb it, it's going to come back. So I don't
Right.
think we can ever. Some people may brush it off, but I don't. I
Right.
don't think. I don't. Truthfully, they're not brushing it off because it's going to
Right.
come back later.
Right.
Definitely is.
You think that you're okay with what you're experiencing. You're taking it in. You don't realize really what you're absorbing until sometimes years later, or when you retire, or even like on the drive home from one of those calls. We get one of those horrible calls. Back when I was a patrol sergeant or a patrol officer, you handle something terrible. And as soon as your report's done, you're on the air again, waiting for that next call.
True.
So you got to be mentally ready. And so you kind of compartmentalize what you just did, and hopefully you're a blank slate for the next call. But when you're driving home, that's when those little things start popping in, and that keep you up all night.
Yeah. Yeah. There's times I was driving home, I didn't even put the radio on,
Right.
only because I had many things to think about. Paulette says she's referring to Jeff toning down the writing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I,
and
I worked with Paulette at the station, so she kind of knows me and knows the kind of calls that we handled in Hialeah. I think I was probably an average officer seeing an average amount of calls, and I would say, the average police officer in Hialeah probably dealt with death one way or another. Traffic accident. One of the most common forms of death is, natural death. When Granny
mhm,
passes away and you have to go write a quick report. And you probably handle some type of death once a week.
mhm.
Sometimes not just twice a week, but sometimes twice in a single day. So if you put all those weeks together, 24 years, you see a lot of it, and it does thicken your skin to what you can take on.
That's good.
But it does affect you. We're human. It has to.
Paulette says you're a great supervisor.
So thank you, Paul.
Paulette, I want to give you a shout out along with Vicky and say thank you for doing the job you're doing. Thank you for doing an outstanding job, and stay safe, stay healthy, and go as long as you can until you get your pension. The um, one woman was I'll never forget this. We have multi-family tenements in this city, and so we were downstairs on the first floor, right on the porch area, and she was worried about a friend that they haven't seen, and I said, "Oh, something's wrong," and she said, "What are you talking about?" Um, and it was the smell of death. I smelled it all the way down. She was on the third floor. I smelled it all the way to the first floor. And I says, I just told her, I says, you might want to go in your house. And she said, well, I'll at least open the door for you. And I didn't want that to happen. And I asked her, I said, can I just take the key and open the door to your friend's house? And she wouldn't let me. No, I'll do it. I'll do it. She was just curious and nosy, maybe. And end result is that I opened the door and the chain was still on the door, and so I knew something was happening. Something was done. Definitely fatal. And
Right.
and when that smell hit her, she till this day I seen her maybe 6, 7 years later, and she still remembers that smell. And I try to avoid it but I just couldn't,
There's nothing quite like it.
Yeah, yeah. Vicky has a comment here. She said, "You see more in 20 years working there than most people see in their lifetime." So true. How about this? You see something going on in just about 30 days. Say just 30 days, especially being in South Florida. Just think of 30 days, any 30 days of your career and what you had seen. And you just tell that 30 days to someone else. And they're saying, wow, you've been through a lot. And that's only 30 days,
Right.
you know? So, Vicky, hang in there. And like I said, just
Vicky's
working.
retired. She's out traveling around with her husband in an RV all over the country.
Oh, that's a story in itself, man, isn't it? That's a great book right there. Um, you know, maybe during your coffee time, Vicky, you can grab a pen and paper and write. Actually, Jeff, I want to ask you something.
Sure.
How's your penmanship now compared to 20 years ago?
My penmanship?
Yeah, is it worse or better?
Well, once I used to have a pretty good cursive writing, handwriting. But, when you get on the police department, everything is in block letters.
Yes.
Back then, they were the multi-copies where you got to really press down hard and make those big block letters. So over the years, I lost my ability to write effectively in cursive. So now when I sign books, we just had a big Apple festival here, and I sold 30 books in 2 days, and I autographed them all. And I usually like to put a little something in there,
True.
Great meeting you and LJ,
Mm-hmm.
I hope you enjoy reading this. And I look at my handwriting, and everyone says it looks great, but I think it looks terrible. I write too fast.
Mm-hmm.
That's just part of me trying to handwrite reports. In the last half of my career, we had these little laptops. We call them laptops, but they're just a little word processor made by Radio Shack. And but when I was handwriting those reports, you'd write so fast because you would get behind in your reports, and then you'd be at the end of your shift and you've got 5 reports. You've got all your notes to write the reports, but you have no time to physically write that report.
Mm-hmm.
Or even later on with a laptop to type it, so you're typing fast. And so my handwriting has suffered. Plus,
Yes.
maybe age-wise, I'm not as dexterous as I used to be, but it's still legible.
Yeah, right. I know the feeling. I took so much pride in my penmanship that it was I really tried to do the best I could. But now I see that it's going off to the edge a little bit, and but I decided I'm gonna fix that by just handwriting a lot of things a little bit more. Only because
I do as well. Whenever I am writing something down, I do try and slow down and make it nice. I mean, have a little pride in what it looks like when I'm done. But like Paulette was asking there, if we use Plotter or Scrivener, I've heard of them, but I don't use any of those tools. I rely solely on Microsoft Word and their ability to correct my spelling, some of my grammar.
mm-hmm.
I plot things out in my head. I'm one. They ask. People ask me, am I a plotter or a pantster? Writing by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the middle. I usually know I have my opening scene, and I have an idea what the ending is going to be, and a couple of spots in the middle. But sometimes, as I'm getting to that first postmark where I think something should be happening, I'll get an idea that I think that would make the book better. So what do? Do I stay with my original idea or make the book, in my opinion, better? So I'll put the new part in there, and we'll see how that adjusts as my next post, mile markers as I reach the end of the story. That's really all I do is writing. One of the things in Leanne and the Clean Man, I tried to make something on every page interesting. I don't want any full page to go by without something interesting happening.
Awesome.
Not a major development, but I want there to be something in there.
Good. That's nice. It's the kind of book I want, and I'm gonna get. Paulette says, "What's that? Planster,
Lanster.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try those out. I've heard of them, like you said, and but I need to try them out,
Right.
especially in this new project. This new one is I'm gonna need it. I really am. So I'm gonna have to try it out.
I don't
However,
know about you, Charlie, but I'm afraid to try new technical things. Like I was terrified when my computer was dying and I had to replace it. Am I going to be able to transfer? You know, I used Dropbox, which puts everything in the cloud.
hmm
So I know it'll be there, but is it going to somehow get messed up when I reload it onto the new desktop? And will I be able to get Microsoft Word working correctly? And so there's a lot of terrifying moments in there. I tried Grammarly once.
hmm
Somebody recommended that, and um, I followed some of Grammarly's advice. I even bought the pro version, and my editor had a fit because everything was wrong. It was putting commas everywhere where there shouldn't be any commas, and
hmm
exclamation marks and semicolons. And so I promised her I would never use Grammarly again.
I experienced the same thing, so I second that. Paulette says, take advantage of the free trial periods
That's
and
what
see
I
how
would.
it works. Yeah, it's I've done that. I'm a little upset with Microsoft Word, only because I think that they continue to add a fee to something that they really haven't updated, other than probably the transcribe button, but that you got to do it online. And anyway, so I think it's a monopoly in it. It's a shame that
Now,
that's what.
I
Yeah.
bought I bought the buyable version. Uh,
hmm
is it Word 2019 or Office 360 19? Whatever it
hmm
is, you buy it like as a student or a one time thing. And I'm very comfortable with that version. It'll read back to me. I'll That's usually the way I'll do a lot of editing. I'll let Microsoft Word read my story to me, and I can pick out the little mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying Anthony Joyner, AJ Joyner, who's a friend of George's and Kim's, and he was a guest on this podcast. I'm trying his software for my latest book, and I'm hoping that it comes out well, which I know it will be, because it makes things a whole lot easier for me. His software program, so
Let me
I'm
know
gonna
how
try
it
to.
works.
Yeah, I will. I will. Um, Jeff, I ask all my guests this one question, and who would you like to see on a Really Charlie podcast?
I'll tell you, somebody I'd have to recommend only because I've seen him speak before, and I thought his book was fantastic. It was Robert Gwaltney. He
Okay,
wrote The Cicada Tree.
what was the last name?
Gwaltney, Gwal, Ney, I believe.
Okay,
Robert Gwaltney. He's in the Atlanta area,
all right. I'm
but
gonna have,
fantastic writer. The Cicada Tree, I think it's his first novel. Um, I think he'd probably love to be on your show. He's a good talker. I'd
yeah,
like to listen to him again.
yeah. I'll.
Got some little tips.
Yep. Whoops. Thank you, Paulette. I got it.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely reach out to him and try to connect with him and make him a guest in coming up in the next few months.
Yeah.
I'm booked going into November, but I definitely want to get more people and more podcasts going. Uh, I told the wife I do it once a week, but I can't. I can't. It just I don't want to say no to anybody, and I don't want to put somebody way
Right.
back in the back seat, where they, it doesn't. It's. I just don't want to do that. I don't want to have people waiting for a long time. Uh,
Well, I appreciate you taking me
uh,
on. I
oh,
enjoy talking about, my career and my writing.
well, this is. I definitely want to do it again,
Sure.
Jeff, and for everyone that's viewing, Jeff's website is right there under our pictures, our photos, the screens right there, and jeffshawwrites.com. Definitely check it out. Very, very interesting set of books you got to get, and he's got one or two more coming. So I can't wait to order both of them that I've seen, and that's gonna pretty much give me a lot to read over the next few months of this long, long winter that the Northeast is going to probably experience. So I'll have plenty of reading material. Um, all right, Jeff. In my eyes, we are officially friends. So please, please keep in touch.
It was
I want
great. Thank
I
you very
want
much.
all right. I want to support you in everything that you possibly do. So I will troll your pages as much as I do. I'm always, always, always on social media. All right. And thank you, Paulette. Great podcast. Thank you. And I'm gonna definitely throw and support everything that you do, just like I do with all my guests. And
There's my little sister. I didn't know she was on.
oh yeah, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Janet. Thank you, Janet, for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. Please, if you all good time, like and subscribe to the Really Charlie YouTube channel. Just put in Really Charlie in YouTube. Just click and like and subscribe, and you'll see all the future podcasts and future guests. Vicky says she's so proud of you, and I'm proud of you too, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
And we only been friends a little while, but I'm proud of you, man.
Thank
God,
you.
you ever want to vent? You ever want to talk about anything?
Yeah.
You know, if the wife's out playing bingo or doing something crazy, give me a call.
I will.
Send me a message. I definitely would like to talk to you about anything, and uh, keep writing. That's the most important thing.
Right. I do.
All right, awesome. All right, Jeff, give me
Well,
a call, and I'm gonna.
thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah, true. Yeah, if you want to say anything, Jeff, you want to go ahead. Other than that, we'll sign off.
No, I just want to thank everybody for listening, and um, those that have read the books. I appreciate it. That's the like music to my ears, reading a review or somebody just saying thank you. You like officers, anybody in law enforcement, family members of law enforcement. I've had so many different people come up to me and just say thank you for telling our story or for letting me understand my father.
Mm-hmm.
So those make every bit of writing that book worthwhile.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely be ordering them and dishing them out to a few friends that are still working,
Right.
and just say, hey, thank you. And this is a cop to a cop.
Right.
All right, my friend. God bless.
God
Stay,
bless.
yep. Stay healthy, and like I said, you need anything, don't hesitate.
Right. I
All
will.
right. Take
Thank
care.
you.
You're a great guest. All right.
Bye now.
Bye. All right, everyone. That was Jeff Shaw. Amazing, amazing man. This is actually what I anticipated. I anticipated a great, great man coming on board, sitting there, ready to talk shop, ready to chop it up, and he did that. And there is always something. There's something else and that's why I'm going to leave it open. I want Jeff to come on again and tell some more stories, especially when he gets his other books going. I definitely will pay attention, and I will send him an invite. Thanks to the great comments from Paulette, Vicky. I really, really appreciate it. It's definitely good to have that interaction, that feedback, and you guys are great. You know, let's see. Please, share, share, share. Jeff's your friend. Jeff's your family member. Share the podcast and have some other people, your friends and family, interact in it. You never know. He may inspire someone else. All right. I'm going to end with my favorite song from Lionel Peter Walker. And stay tuned to the Really Charlie podcast every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, here on Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Fireside. And if you want to get a guest, if you want to be a guest or have me invite someone to this podcast, just send me an email or message on social media. My email is reallycharliepodcast@gmail.com. Please continue to support me. All right. And well, there's one more comment. Let me make sure I can answer it. Love you, Rhonda. Appreciate you. God bless. All right, everyone. Have a great evening. God bless you. And tell your family and friends you love them. Tomorrow isn't guaranteed. No, it isn't. All right. Here we go.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast. Grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast. Grab a chair, fill your glass.